Hi-Tech is just saying, yo, you took $3 million, but you only have proof of alleged crimes worth $1,100. We want our $3 million back. And the FDA now has 10 days from here to respond.
Welcome to PricePlow.
What's happening, PricePlow Nation? This is Mike here, and we've been going way too strong not to upload a video today, so I'm going to yell on the camera for a few minutes now. CJ has been keeping everyone up to date on the Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals versus FDA and U.S. government in general war that's been going on over many of the several issues that we have here. And today we posted a new article on the blog that I'd like to get out to the video viewers as well. And so if you haven't been following, there's three main things that are going on in these cases. The first off is the DMAA lawsuit, which is an appeal to the 11th Circuit. And so that we're kind of in waiting mode there, but on March 1st, I'm going to say today is March 9th of 2018, by the way, on March 1st, the judge stated that they will take oral arguments. And so they passed out some paperwork and we're waiting on that. So that's actually a step in the right direction. Mini update there. Second off, CJ kept you all very up to date on what we call the Red Yeast Rice Raid. And this is where Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals was allegedly selling misbranded supplements, a cholesterol supplement that had red yeast rice in it, and it had a constituent that the FDA didn't want to be sold as a supplement. The FDA then used that to then go and raid Hi-Tech Pharma's facilities, and they arrested Jared Wheat. And in order for him to get bonded out, they forced him, or not forced him, but they kind of cajoled him into signing an agreement that would force him not to be able to sell or manufacture DMAA. That appeal process is still ongoing, and there's a lot of like legal back and forth being batted back and forth there. So kind of waiting to see what happens there. But as of right now, Jared Wheat and Hi-Tech Pharma still cannot sell DMAA. However, there's an extra part of that indictment that we hadn't talked about a whole lot, and that were allegations of misbranded supplements being sold that had scheduled steroids inside. And so what the FDA and the U.S. government were alleging was that Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals had like 1 androstenedione and 4 androstenedione in their 1-AD and 4 andro-based DHEA 2-stage pro-hormones. And so 1 androstenedione, 4 androstenedione, and a couple other things. Those are scheduled substances, and the FDA alleged that they found those in Hi-Tech's legal pro-hormones that do not, should not have those on the label and everything. And so, and we figured those were just charges that were there. What we didn't realize that there was actually a third case number where the U.S. federal government confiscated and seized over $3 million from Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals over this. And basically what they did is they had 2 instances of an undercover agent purchasing those pro-hormones that they alleged to have the illegal substances in. And they spent about like $1,100 buying that stuff. And once they determined using their lab tests, and we have a lot of questions over these lab tests, but these aren't even being argued yet. But over their lab tests, they alleged that they found some scheduled steroids inside of those supplements, and they used that then to open up the third case that we didn't know about and seized about $3.4 million total over the course of a couple weeks in early of October of 2017. And so like tons of money just pulled out of 2 different accounts from Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals. And so there's a lot of legal maneuvering going on back and forth. But basically Hi-Tech's lawyers had to kind of regroup, and they filed some motions to get those, not the charges completely dismissed, but to dismiss the seizure of those bank accounts because the FDA failed to state a claim. Basically, they're saying that, hey, you do not know what happened with the other $3 million. That $3 million that was in those bank accounts was legally made. And all you have right now are some alleged supplements that have some steroids, but you only spent $1,100 on that. So we have money, $3 million in this account that was legally made, and you can't confiscate all of it because you've only found and you only have evidence for $1,100 worth of stuff that may have been allegedly bad. And so now what happens is this really connects to the ongoing drug war. And basically, there's a law, and let me pull it up here, 18 U.S.C. 981 A1C. And this talks about how confiscations and seizures can happen. And the issue here is that if you're using something as a tool to do illegal things, then that thing that you're using can get confiscated. So for instance, in the blog post, I make this example where, let's say you have a car that you purchased legally using money you made from your 9-to-5 job, but then you go and sell crack to the kids on the weekends, and selling crack is of course illegal, and you use your car to transport the drugs or something like that. Well, then guess what? The car can also be confiscated because it's using it as a vehicle to make illicit money. Well, the FDA tried using that in the case where they said, well, you're using these bank accounts to do these illegal things, so therefore we can just confiscate the whole bank accounts. And so Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals said, no, we have $3 million sitting there, and it wasn't being used to do anything. It was just sitting there in savings waiting to be deployed later on for our other ongoing legal activities. And so the idea isn't that you can't confiscate something. The idea is that the thing you're confiscating needs to be used used for the purpose of those crimes. And those crimes don't yet need to be proven. They just need to be strong enough evidence for the judge to want to at least wait for the case to happen. However, in this case, the money was just sitting there in the account. And so it turns out, so Hi-Tech filed this order, and it turns out that the judge really actually agreed with Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals. And basically, I'll pull it up right here. Hi-Tech spends the bulk of its brief arguing that the government cannot support a seizure of more than $3 million with only like two instances of undercover purchases. The 11th Circuit, in like other cases, has held that even funds derived from legitimate sources are forfeitable when those funds are used to facilitate an illegal scheme. So that's what I was talking about before. However, in the conclusion of the judge's order, where he actually states Hi-Tech's motion to dismiss in document number 7 is granted. And we have links to these in the blog. I'll put them in the description. But the government is granted leave to file an amended verified complaint within 20 days of this order. It's been 10 days. We haven't seen anything yet, but in 10 more days, we can assume that the FDA is probably going to file something and probably try to confiscate a smaller amount of money or something like that. And so in the event that the government doesn't file an amended verified complaint, then the dismissal becomes final and Hi-Tech Pharma gets $3.4 million back. And so what this really shows to me is that this is like a war with gloves, or where the gloves are completely off. We've seen that in the past videos where these two parties are not at all fighting. I'm not going to say fair, but they're not fighting friendly. And so they're using whatever they can. It really seems like, from an outsider's perspective, and I really am an outsider at this stage of the game here. I'm not connected with Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals. They're not sponsoring the site right now or anything. At this stage of the game, it really seems like the FDA and the U.S. federal government are doing whatever they can to like just starve and bleed Jared Wheat and Hi-Tech Pharma out. They no longer can produce DMAA. They can no longer sell it. They've arrested their suppliers coming in from China during Supply Side West. There was the whole raid where they took away all this stuff, and then they confiscated the money, and then they brought up these indictments as well. And so they're doing all these things over and over and over. But it's like, Hi-Tech's lawyers keep on coming on up for air, and they keep on finding ways to defend their client. And it looks like knowing that Hi-Tech Pharmaceuticals doesn't make all their money on pro hormones, that they're going to get a lot of this money back. And so, because, Hi-Tech Pharma, they make a lot of money with fat burners. The pills pay the bills. That's what they say. And so it looks like Jared Wheat, I'm guessing he's going to get at least $1 million back, probably a lot more. And so that's where we stand right now. And the one thing I want to point out, though, is that I still think that these charges are a bit dubious. They're at least the charges and the evidence that I've seen, and I haven't seen this evidence on Pacer. Someone sent it to me, but the evidence that I've seen shows lab tests that I believe are not yet strong enough for a case. And the hint there is that it looks like there was no quantitative testing done on these pro hormones. And it looks like, to me, I'm not that much into the drug testing as you think, but it does look like they were doing simply testing based upon molecular weight, and that the agent really didn't want to get any more information than that. And the problem with doing that is that there's over 1,200 different compounds that have the same molecular weight as 4-androstenedione and 1-androstenedione. And guess what? Some of the ones that weigh the exact same thing are indeed the legal prohormones, like 1-andro and 4-andro. And so what this shows me is that you need to get real deal quantitative testing. And if you show that with quantitative testing that that they did have illegal stuff, illegal schedule of steroids inside of them, then you have a case. But as of right now, for whatever reason, the agent didn't want to get the real deal test. And so I don't think this evidence is good enough as it is yet. But guess what? We're not even at the point of arguing that yet. Hi-Tech is just saying, yo, you took $3 million, but you only have proof of alleged crimes worth $1,100. We want our $3 million back. And the FDA now has 10 days from here to respond. So hopefully you enjoyed. This is Mike with PricePlow. And of course, stay tuned.
Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed this video and want to see future videos from us, do me a huge favor and click the subscribe button down below. Also, if you want to know more about the supplement we talked about in this video or other supplements, visit our website right up here. Thanks again, guys. We really appreciate your support. Remember, subscribe.